How to make edible water. Yep, that's exactly what we're gonna...
Don't you mean drink water, fool?
What? No, I am specifically referring to water that you can eat. And no, I'm not talking about slimes in any shape or form here. What do you think this is, a kids channel? Though there are probably some adults out there who are interested in slime, I guess. Wait, not that kind of slime. Methods associated with the process of creating actual edible water that would almost seem to exist in two states simultaneously are very well documented throughout the interwebs. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna quickly explain one of the techniques I found and then we'll move on to the good stuff. Exploring the history behind the science that led to edible water and the two men who pushed that science into the mainstream. Alright, Mello. Edible water sounds cool and all, but why go through the trouble to make edible water when you could just drink it in its natural form at room temperature? I mean, it's cool science you could show off to your, grandparents. Next time Grandpa Bernie comes over, you could be like, "Yo, Gramps, I made edible water." Pretty cool, right? Right?
Apologies for the cringe.
Look, I just think it's cool that we can literally create enslaved moisture. I mean, for a lot of us, we're still stuck indoors even in 2021, so why not have a bit of fun experimenting with household items? What? You afraid to get wet? With that said, some of the materials / ingredients aren't exactly common household items, but they shouldn't be too hard to search for online, in places like Amazon, for example. Step 1. We're gonna need 2 separate containers for 2 separate mixtures, the first of which is a sodium alginate solution. Simply add about a gram of sodium alginate powder to a cup of water and blend with an immersion blender. Leave aside for 10 to 15 minutes for the solution to settle into a crystal clear liquid free of air bubbles. Step 2. We need to create another solution which will act as a sort of bath for forming the edible water bubbles. All it takes is about 5 grams of calcium lactate and 4 cups of water. Step 3. Using a tablespoon, very gently scoop a bit of the sodium alginate solution and lower it into the calcium lactate bath. Repeat this for as many edible water bubbles as you'd like. Just remember to give them sufficient space. Everyone needs space. Stir for about 3 minutes until the bubbles seem to have solidified somewhat. They should have a jelly-like surface. Step 4. When you're confident with your bubbles' form and structure, remove them from the calcium bath and place into a separate container for some gentle rinsing. Step 5. Remove the bubbles from the container and eat. Or drink. It's still sort of debatable, but yeah, you can hold these boys in your hands and maybe even play with them if you're not too rough. It may take a few practice runs, but if you've successfully made some edible water bubbles on your first try, congratulations! You have a bright future in the art of making water bubbles. You may wonder how this entire process actually works. Like, yeah, Mello, we mix some chemicals and poof, water bubbles come out of nowhere. But how do the molecules react and stuff? That's what I want to know. It's not all that complicated. The calcium ions in the calcium lactate solution basically react with the sodium alginate and cause it to gel. As soon as the surface solidifies, calcium ions can't really get into the sodium alginate bubble, so what you end up with is a thin film filled with liquid. This process is called spherification, and it's used a lot in the culinary industry. Now, why would someone go through the trouble to make tiny little juice balls? I mean, who doesn't love nice little juicy balls? Let's take a short trip through history to see how humans finally ended up convincing themselves that turning food into squishy little balls was essential for the continuation of their species. Food science before the 80s was more concerned with industrial production of food and its nutritional properties. This eventually changed in the 90s with the introduction of a subdiscipline called Molecular Gastronomy, which seeks to investigate physical and chemical transformations of ingredients during cooking. The term was first coined as molecular and physical gastronomy in 1988 by late Oxford physicist Nicolas Corti of Hungarian origin and the French INRA chemist Hervé Thys. In 1992, that term became the title for a set of workshops held in Arese, Italy, or Arice. Feel free to correct me down in the comments. It was basically a group of scientists vibing with professional cooks of the time, discussing about the science behind traditional cooking preparations. Molecular and physical gastronomy was then shortened to molecular gastronomy, which, as I said before, basically means science time in the kitchen. Nicolas Corti and Hervé Thys were very involved in this field of science during the Arice workshops and considered creating a formal discipline around the subjects they discussed. Unfortunately, Mr. Corti died in 1998. So then, it was all up to his partner, Hervé this. I feel like Nicolas Curti deserves some more mention, so here are a few more details that I managed to uncover. Mr. Curti was actually one of the first TV cooks and had his own TV show in the UK that aired in 1969. Nice. Entitled The Physicist in the Kitchen. He was big on promoting the application of science to improve cooking methods in restaurants and especially households. Some of the stuff he demonstrated on TV included making meringue in a vacuum chamber, cooking sausages by connecting them across a car battery. The boy was committing science time before YouTube was even a thing. He also held a presentation for the Royal Society of London in the same year where he stated,
"I think it is a sad reflection on our civilization that while we can and do measure the temperature in the atmosphere of Venus, we do not know what goes on inside our soufflés."
How could you not love this man? Hervé This is currently publishing French essays as well as hosting monthly seminars on molecular gastronomy at the INRA in France. And by currently, I mean up till the point before the Rona hit us pretty hard. This is, I believe, one of the more recent quotes from Hervé This.
By the time I die, I want cooking to have changed.
Bless his soul. There's also this long article about how he managed to produce 24 liters of mayo from a single egg. It'll be in the description if you guys want to check it out. Both of these gentlemen have contributed immensely to modern day cooking by pushing for people to attempt science time in the kitchen, even if just a little. Thanks to them, we have cooking methodologies today that are far more precise and even artistic, leading to the creation of many different forms of food preparation, even just for the sake of aesthetics. One of them being, of course, spherification. And that, boys and girls, is all we have for today. If you'd like to join the Discord server, it is available through Patreon, link in the description. Leave some funny comments too, helps make me immune to the big sad. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.